He said, wife seemingly deconverted and left me. I'm so sorry, bro. Do you have any advice in biblical decision-making around this? Currently feel led to not initiate divorce. Oh, man. This is heavy. And this is the tough part about like this. Like, I can't give you biblical counseling respectfully. I'll do my best. I think the principle from within the scriptures, I want to say it's in 1 Corinthians, is if you're with an unbelieving spouse, maybe they were believing at one point, they're deconverted, we're not going to get into internal security and whether she was ever a Christian, not the time or the place, okay? If we're talking about this right now, I think the biblical position to this is if she's a non-believing spouse and she's not leaving you, let her stay. If she wants to leave you, let her leave. Let's look at the scriptures. Let's look at the scriptures. I think it picks up in verse 12. To the rest I say, if any brother has a wife who is not a believer and she is willing to live with him, he must not divorce her. So if you have a wife, she's not a believer, you're not supposed to divorce her.
She's all yours.
Right? And if a woman has a husband who is not a believer, he and is willing to live with her, I think that is willing to live with her is probably the biggest caveat.
Yeah.
Right? She must not divorce him. For the unbelieving husband has been sanctified through his wife, and the unbelieving wife has been sanctified through her believing husband. For the unbelieving husband has been sanctified through his wife, his believing wife, and the unbelieving wife has been sanctified through her believing husband. Otherwise, your children would be unclean, but as it is, they are holy.
But if an unbeliever leaves, here we go.
But if an unbeliever leaves. Now, that whole thing about sanctifying, that's very interesting because I don't know if that's saying, like, hey, if you love them well, will they eventually return back to Jesus?
I think the data shows that.
I think it does show that, right? Like if you
data
stay,
shows that, like
especially
if
for
husband,
men. Yeah, especially for men.
Converts to Christianity and is and the whole household is not. It goes up to like 90%. That the rest of the household will become Christian.
Yeah, the odds are very, very high. I think this is passage fairly clear. Now, here's the flip side to all this. But if the unbeliever leaves, let it be so. The brother or the sister is not bound in such circumstances. God has called us to live in peace. So that's a big one, right? Don't be quarrelsome. Don't be naggy. Don't always be on their neck, right? You're called to live in peace, right? The brother or the sister is not bound in circumstances. God has called us to live in peace. How do you know, wife, whether you will save your husband, or how do you know, husband, whether you will save your wife? And then it says, nevertheless, each person as a believer in whatever situation the Lord has assigned to them, just as God has called them, this is the rule I laid down in all the churches.
Wow.
Right? So remain as you are. If you were married, stay married. If you weren't married, don't jump out the window.
So he says it's not worth the headache. Juice isn't worth the squeeze if she left.
Yeah, so if she's leaving you, that's different. But if she's not leaving you, you are to stay in that situation. And it sounds like, and Zach kind of alluded to it, the data seems to suggest that she will likely come back or somehow the scripture saying
if
sanctified.
She stays, that she'll likely come back to Christ, not come back to the household.
The Occupy Till I Come 60-day devotional is back in stock. This is taking you through the entire narrative of the scriptures in 60 days with custom daily devotional prompts. So what you're doing is you're spending 35 days in the Old Testament, 25 days in the New Testament, going over all the major stories. There's additional reading for you to go deeper if you want to go deeper on the stories. And you can get them right now bundled up with a virtual ticket to our Bless God Summit. Bless God Summit is coming up March 27th, 28th, 29th in beautiful Southern California. My favorite podcasters, apologists, pastors, preachers, entrepreneurs, all in the same room. Day 1, we're talking about apologetics. Day 2, we're talking about virtue. Day 3, we're going out into the marketplace and being the hands and feet of Jesus. This is going to be a wonderful event. And what you could do is you could actually get the devotional bundled with the virtual ticket for only $65. So go to blessgodshop.com, get yourself a 60-day devotional. I promise you the feedback on these has been crazy. You will love it. Designed by my guy, Josh Nadeau from Sword and Pencil. The beautiful artwork, okay? So go to blessgod.shop, get yours now, okay? Mean the world to me.
If she's already left, it's likely that she may have left for somebody else.
Yes.
In which that's probably what is saying right here in scripture, which is you want to live in peace.
Yes.
That's not worth the headache.
Right.
Trying to detangle being cheated on and adultery and all this stuff.
Just to clarify, not necessarily looking for counseling, but more about figuring out decent decision makings in biblical manner around this, because I just feel like every choice is the wrong one to me. So
I feel like we just did it.
I think we just did it. I think we just gave you the passage.
Straight to scripture.
Now, there's going to be a diversity of views. I want to say like Catholics believe if you ever get divorced, you are never to get remarried, even if adultery is involved. You are to remain single indefinitely.
Even if it's like adultery?
Even if it's adultery. Yeah, I think infidelity seems to be a caveat to allow divorce, but I think in their paradigm, you're not to remarry. Perhaps there is some sort of caveat they could find, but I think that's a pretty cut and dry teaching. Catholics, you can correct me if you want in the comment section. I want to say the Eastern Orthodox have a slightly different position on this, where they view marriage outside of the church as not like they want you to have another ceremony within the church. I know a prominent Eastern Orthodox, we're not going to name his name, who got remarried, like he was married, but he got married again in the church recently.
My brother is going through the catechism.
Yeah.
And he's married. And so I'm really excited to see if they have to have an Orthodox wedding.
I think so.
But it's cheap, right? You just go to the Orthodox church.
I think
you don't got to do the whole thing.
I don't think it's a big thing. Yeah. So I don't know what it means in that paradigm.
I would go to his Orthodox.
This is what I will say. I think if I'm going to be honest, I think Protestants are a little loosey-goosey on this. I've seen a lot of dudes get divorced with no grounds. And the guys that in my life that got divorced with no grounds, for the record, at my church, they kicked them out. Mm-hmm. You can't just get divorced with no grounds and think it's all kosher. At my church, you're out.
Yeah.
You got no grounds for it. You don't get to leave your wife and make her a single mom. You know what I'm saying? You don't get to do that. You're out. Now, I think some circles that it's a little too loosey-goosey. I was talking to a dude whose wife was at ministry school because he was struggling with, and she was at ministry school while he had the 2 kids. And I'm like, who lets anyone in the middle of a situation like this go to ministry school and abandon her kids while he's now a single dad trying to figure out? Like, that's so out of pocket. And
she went to ministry school?
She was in a Protestant ministry school
because he was dealing
with porn, left him and is in another state, and he had to move in with his parents because he needed this stuff happens. And
that Jezebel,
wild, right? So I will say that, like, I think we're a little too casual on this.
That's awful.
I think we're a little too casual. So to me, it's like, no, you have no grounds. You have no grounds for divorce unless there's adultery involved. Actual adultery, not emotional adultery.
Yeah.
Actual adultery. And
not addiction,
adultery.
Yes.
And if you are walking through this process, I think you're called to stay, and by the grace of God, hopefully that staying will exhibit a gentleness and a love. I think abuse is also another one that I'm okay with. Like, if there's actual physical abuse.
Mike Winger has like a 4-hour.
Yeah, Mike Winger has a great video about abuse. Abandonment is what Paul is talking about. If they leave you, that's abandonment.
So yeah,
right.
What if they leave you and they're Christian?
What if they leave you and they're Christian? That's still abandonment, in my opinion.
Exactly.
Yeah, but again, I don't know.
Yeah.
Seek a local church with a local pastor that can help you through this process. But don't leave and don't file the divorce. Don't initiate that. I think you would be out of pocket for initiating that divorce. Now,
you think so?
Yes. I think if he's with a deconverted Christian, they're in the same household, they have kids together, you don't get to file for divorce because she deconverted.
100%. That's what that's what the scripture says. I thought you were saying if she left.
No.
If she
I
left,
would say even if she left, I would be very careful to not file for divorce. I think you got to pray and ask the Lord to soften her heart and that he would return her. And I've seen that happen. I've seen someone go through a rough patch, wild out in their faith, and then a month later they're back.
I think there's still hope.
Yeah, I think there's still hope. So that would be my assessment on that. Hey, thank you so much for checking out the video. Please be sure to comment below and subscribe and all that good stuff. And check out this other video that YouTube seems to be recommending just for you. Let me know if they nailed it. All right, I'll see you over there. Peace.